Hello, today I'm playing Tiny Epic Tactics by Gamelyn Games. The version you see here of me playing is a solo adventure. In it, I have to collect the 6 crystals up in the left-hand corner, the different gem colors there. They're going to be on the dungeons, which are printed on the bottom of each one of these three-dimensional boxes that you see. In this game, you start with a fighter, a beast, a rogue, and a wizard. The 4 that are on the top are the enemy units, and the 4 that you see at the bottom of the screen, those are my units. My objective is to get the 6 crystals before the time tracker runs out. You'll see that in the lower left corner of the screen. The enemy's objective is to try to capture all of my units, or to prevent me from being able to get all the dungeons by the end of the last turn there on the tracker. Each unit has its own specific abilities. The fighter usually has an ammo token. The beast usually has no ammo or mana token because he's a melee attacker only. The rogue will have an ammo token for a range, which is what they call missile attacks in this game. And the wizard will have a mana token, which he will use to cast spells. Each turn you're allowed 3 actions. You can either use an action to move a unit, you can use an action to do a melee attack with a unit, or you can use an action to do a missile or a spell attack. If you use a unit twice for 2 separate actions, whether it be a move or a melee, or a move and a missile or a spell attack, that unit becomes weakened and gets a weakened token on it. The following turn, if you use that unit again, you must remove the weakened token and take 2 damage. So far this first turn, I've moved my beast into the dungeon. I've moved my fighter forward, and I'm also moving my wizard up. I'm checking with the wizard to see if he has range on anything to make a ranged spell attack. I use the little tokens to help me remember of my 3 actions I've taken. You also, at the end of your turn, get a tactic card. You can never have more than 3. If you do get more than 3, you have to discard down to 2. So you'll see me choose these tactic cards at the end of my turn for subsequent turns to use. I also forgot to turn the timer tracker down, which I just did. On the enemy's turn, I use the little enemy cards for the solo play. What that does is that references up in the top left corner what unit will be used and a special ability or a bonus that will go to that unit during the turn. Right now it's the beast, and he's got an attack bonus, I believe. That attack bonus will be applied to his melee attack against my fighter, adding a bonus. He's also rolling dice for knockback. How knockback works is however many red dice you roll, which is the knockback symbol, that's how many squares back your opponent will be knocked back. He did not roll any red knockback symbols here, so my fighter would not get knocked back in this case. It just come to my attention, I should probably note that the blue units are the enemy units and the red units are my units. You'll notice the blue enemy fighter in the center of the screen has a heart icon on him. That reminds me that he has an ability that affects other units on his team. He adds +2 damage to all attacks within 4 of him. I'm continuing to move through the dungeon with my beast, but there's a little icon on that square that's for cave-in. I have to roll the knockback symbol, which is red, in order to move on to that square and continue my movement. Now I just moved on to a red square, which has the solo enemy on there. I reference the bottom of the card now, which tells me the enemy that attacks me. It looks like it's a rock golem at this time. And I have to roll some dice to see how much his attack is. He does more damage to my unit when he doesn't roll red knockback symbols. I'm almost to that crystal. Next turn. I'm going to use my next action to use my fighter there to make an attack on his beast up there in the top. He'll do 3 damage, and then I'm going to roll for knockback. The amount of symbols that you see on my card is how many dice I can roll. when rolling for knockback. Also forgot to move that time tracker. I gotta try to remember to do that at the beginning of my turn, and then grabbing a tactic card at the end of my turn. He does get a couple symbols there and pushes them back 2 squares. That little swirly motion that I'm doing with my finger signifies that the enemies will always counterattack my units after I've attacked them. This unit being the beast, he only has a melee attack, so he's going to only attack anything that's adjacent to him. Now, if he would have been fighter, rogue, or the wizard, who have missile attacks, he could have counterattacked my fighter. Now I believe I'm going to use my wizard to attack the beast. He has to be within the range of my spell attack, which I believe he is, of 4. I'll roll my dice because if I roll mana, which is the blue symbols, that boosts my attack. Spell and missile attacks are a little different than melee attacks because you don't roll for knockback with them, but this spell attack actually has an ability that will push opponent back. That would conclude my third action, and now I draw a tactic card. Looking at the 3, I choose which 2 I want to keep and discard the other one. It's the enemy's turn, so I draw an enemy card and reference that top left corner. In this case, it says the beast. The beast has already been used. So because of that, I use the leftmost unit that's adjacent to the beast, which is the rogue. Now, the rogue doesn't have any melee attack adjacent to her, so she'll move on and use the move action, and then again reference whether she has a melee attack or a missile attack. Right now I'm counting to see who's the closest. That's how you begin the turn. She's going to advance towards the closest unit to her. That unit being one of my units. She's going to go as close as she can to attack one of my units. My rogue is closest to the enemy rogue. She will move and then look for a melee attack. Since there is none, she'll count off to see if she can do a ranged attack or a missile attack. The enemy units will never attack any of my units that are in dungeons, so because of that, the beast isn't even considered when looking to see who's the closest unit to her. My rogue is just out of range of hers, so she won't attack on this turn. This game overall is fairly simple, but all the units having their own abilities and different things that are triggering at different times kind of add some complexity to this. So a lot of times I have to sit and contemplate my actions before I take them. This one I'm definitely going to get that first crystal using my beast. As soon as I get the crystal, I activate a special ability that's on the crystal card. I reset the board and I come out of the dungeon and continue my movement. This red crystal, I believe, does damage to an enemy unit of my choosing. The other factor of the game is constantly watching that time tracker. If that gets to 0, the game's over. I can add 2 more time by capturing or taking out an enemy unit, but they also have a lot of health, and I have to use my units in order to take those out, which means I can't explore during those times. That crystal ability there allowed me to take the beast down to only 1 health, which I'm definitely going to want to use one of my units to take him out in a later turn. That would add 2 more time to my time tracker. Now I'm thinking here where I want to move the beast after leaving the dungeon. Whenever you attack an enemy unit, it always counters. So you have to be ready and prepared for that your unit's going to take some damage possibly. I choose to move them up on top of the next elevation there. I'd like to get them over to the other dungeon, and also if you see the little village space there, that will revive 4 health and replenish all ammo and all mana as you go through it or if you land on it and stop on it. My next unit's going to be the rogue. I'm thinking about sneaking her up to the top to get through that other dungeon that's up at the top left corner of the map. I'm also checking to see if she has range on the other rogue unit, which she does. My rogue has an ability that if she stops her movement within 2 of an enemy unit, she can weaken them. So I'm going to use that ability to weaken the rogue on the enemy team. You only use the enemy units one at a time. Once they've all activated once, then all the counters come off and they will reactivate again using the cards. But in this instance, if the rogue who's weakened has to do a counterattack against another one of my units, she would have to take 2 damage before doing that counterattack. So that weakened state does actually help. I've now moved my wizard into the dungeon there at the top right. And that's my third action. So I'll look at the tactic cards and pick one, or discard the one I just drew. It's the enemy turn, so I'll reference the top left of this card. It says leftmost, and it also says the ability to climb. In this instance, whatever unit the enemy unit that's chosen, he's going to want to get elevation. So he's going to get to the closest elevation he can, but right now I'm also checking which unit would be closer to attack, whether it be the rogue or the beast on my side. And since the rogue and the beast are both the exact same, I go back and reference the upper right corner, which has a compass of the enemy card. That will tell me which unit it will choose over the other. In this instance, the fighter will attack the rogue before he would attack the beast. The enemy fighter will make his move, making elevation his first priority. Now he looks to see if he has a melee attack. He doesn't, so he moves on to a missile attack, the rogue being his primary target. I'm going to move my fighter to make an attack on the beast. Since I'm going to be using another action with him, my fighter will become weakened. Being that his first action was a move action, his second action is a melee attack. I was about to roll for knockback, but then I realized the damage would have taken out the beast. Enemy units will become respawned at the end of the turn, which you'll see. Be sure to add that essential 2 clicks of time there. My wizard's continuing his movement through the dungeon. He just landed on a green space, which is a trap space. In this case, if I roll any missile icons, which are the green ones, he'll take 2 damage per missile icon I roll. That's the end of my 3 actions. Now I have to respawn a new enemy beast. I take the cards and I shuffle them. I draw one at random to replace the previous beast. Of course, I'll have a new ability now. Now I'll take the 3 flags. I'll shake those in my hand and randomly choose one. I could drop it in the dish if I choose. That's going to tell me where his starting point's going to be. I grab the orange. I think that's the center of the map there. I'm not sure if this is correct or not. I'd probably have to look for a rules clarification. But since the last beast was taken out and this is a new character, I remove the unit token and give the new beast a chance to activate during an enemy's turn. That's the enemy's turn. I'm going to activate the wizard. I believe the ability on the card too is going to give her more power to her spell. There's no melee attack. So now I'm looking to see which unit is closest to her. I don't take elevation into consideration when I'm doing this. My fighter becomes her primary target, so she's going to try to move closer to my fighter to either make a melee, a missile, or in this case, a spell attack. Water terrain costs 1 to move into, so you have to add 1 to your movement whenever you enter it. After that, whether you move through water or move back onto ground, it doesn't have any more adverse effects. Now the same thing happens when you're making missile attacks or spell attacks. If you're targeting somebody above you, you lose 1 to your range. If you're targeting somebody below you, you can actually add 1 to your missile or your spell range. I believe here she doesn't have enough to get to my fighter with her spell attack because of that elevation that I'm on. I'm continuing my movement with the wizard through the dungeon. I've come up to a cave-in tile. You have to roll your knockback dice, which in this instance I think is only 1 die for me, and I have to roll a red knockback symbol, or else I have to subtract 2 from my movement. The first attempt fails, so I only have 1 movement left. The second attempt I do roll red, so I actually get to move on to the space, but that would conclude that movement. It slows the unit down. I've just moved my rogue up there in the top left, and I just moved my beast over a village tile. That would give him 4 life and would also raise any missile or mana. But the beast is only a melee character. I'm checking my tactic card here and proceeding on with the enemy phase. The enemy beast has also attacked my beast now after movement. He's also rolling for knockback. In this instance, he pushes me to the end of the map, so I have to take another unit of damage. I think I forget at first, but his fighter adds that aura, which will add 2 more damage to my character. I think I pick it up later on. I use my beast to give him a quick move action, jump in that dungeon, steal the crystal, and run back out. This crystal will add 2 health to all my units. My wizard continues to trudge through the dungeon. It's encountered an enemy. It'll take some damage here, and then move on to gain another crystal. This crystal allows me to make a free attack, and I think I just noticed that 2 damage that the fighter would have done to my beast. Now my beast is going to attack his, and I'm rolling for knockback after that. See if I can get him off that cliff. My beast nails him with knockback, actually pushing him into the other building, taking another unit of damage there.